Good evening and welcome to Alan's Italy. Tonight's show, show number 96, is going to focus on train travel in Italy. And this is a great show for anybody who would like to know about how to use the Italian train system. Anyone who's going there, anybody who's been there and was completely confused by it, which is very possible. People who are just interested in travel. I'm the type of person who loves to travel, as you well know. And as I travel through Italy, and I really, as you also very well know, my audience very well knows, I really do not like driving. But I do like taking trains, and I'm going to discuss a lot of my experiences at first and talk about some of the pluses and minuses of train travel. And then I'm going to focus on a particular train station, the main train station in Florence, Santa Maria Novella, and talk about the whole process of using the train system, buying a ticket and getting to the station and what to do when you're there and finding your train, the whole process that makes train travel in Italy one of my really favorite experiences. Okay, so I'm going to first talk about, let me get the album up here to do this. And this is something that I really, if it comes down to using an automobile, which I despise doing, or using the trains, of course I would rather use a train. I'll explain why in a few minutes. But, taking a train has a lot of advantages. Not least of which is that you don't have to, drive. You could just sit back and relax, and you're not getting the ability to stop in many of the small towns along the way. That's the problem. When you drive and you pass a town that looks interesting, you just stop in and have lunch. When you're on the train, you may see a town that may look interesting, but of course you can't stay there. You could make note of it, and it's hard to even make note of it because you're not sure exactly what that town may be. So, when you're driving in a car, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to discover new things. As Laura and I, one of the most amazing discoveries we ever made was the town of Città della Pieve. And as we were driving through Umbria, we happened to have gotten lost. You can't get lost on a train, but on a car, especially me, you can get lost constantly. And what we stumbled upon was one of the most extraordinary towns we ever went to. And we had lunch there that day, and came back and had another experience there, which I focused on a show we did last year. So that's the advantage. When I was traveling solo in Italy, between the years 2001 and 2003, I met people on the train. You're traveling alone on the train, someone's sitting directly opposite you or right next to you, and you get into a conversation. I remember once I was taking a train from Florence to Venice, and in those days they had little cabins, and each cabin, housed, let's say, 8 people. So I was with the whole family, and I got into a whole discussion on where the family was going and why they were going there, and it was great. You're in a car, you're kind of isolated. The only way to really, make contact with locals is to stop and walk around the towns, which, you certainly do, and that's wonderful also. But this is relaxed. Everybody's relaxed. You're on a train. It's totally out of your control, and you're just riding along, and people attach themselves to each other, and maybe for an hour or 2 hours, you have these wonderful, pleasant conversations with people from all over the world. So that's a really great experience. Unfortunately, there are times when train travel can drive a person completely crazy. For example, the train strikes that occur in Italy on a regular basis. So over the 22 trips that I've taken to Italy over the past, since 1992, I made a list of all the train strikes that I encountered. One, two, three. We encountered 4 main train strikes that actually disrupted our travel arrangements. And sometimes it simply causes you to spend an extra day in a place. Sometimes it causes real hardship. So I'd like to go through a few of those possibilities just to show you that not all train travel is rosy. So the first train strike that I ever encountered was in 1998. This is when I was married to my first wife, Wendy. We were about to get on a train to Naples, and we were checking out of the hotel. We wanted to check out of the hotel in Rome the night before so that we would be able to just simply leave the hotel in the morning. So as we were doing this, we were told by the front desk staff that there was going to be a train strike the next day, and we would not be able to take our train from Rome to Naples. Now, you could hire a car, but that's, very expensive. You could possibly take a boat from Civitavecchia, which is the Roman, seaport, the current Roman seaport, to Naples. But we decided to simply stay the extra day in Rome. So we hired the room we had, and the hotel was able to put us up for an extra night. So that was, not a terrible thing. Spending an extra day in Rome is obviously a very wonderful experience. So that worked out very nicely. In 2002, during one of my solo trips to Italy, I was staying in Venice, and I wanted to take a side trip to Verona. So I went to the train station in Venice, and as I was walking up the steps, somebody came down the steps I went to a travel agency. I'll discuss the best places to get train tickets in a moment, but I was coming up the steps going to the travel agency right next to the station in Venice, and people were like shaking their heads and very annoyed, and they were murmuring, "I can't stand these train strikes." And I, looked at them and I said, "Oh my God, it's a train strike." I went into the travel agency. They said, "Yes, indeed, there's a train strike, which is beginning in about 5 hours, and it's going to last a full day afterwards." So I said, "Well, if I take a train to Verona and spend the day in Verona, I might be stranded in Verona. If I manage to get back to Venice, I might be stranded in Venice because the next day I was going to Milano to take a plane home. So I might be, stranded." Now, stranded in Venice is not the worst thing in the world, believe me, but I had a job and I had to return to my job. So I immediately said to the travel agency, "I have a ticket to go from Venice to Milan tomorrow, but I want to leave now." They said, "Right now?" I said, "Well, give me 2 hours to get back to my hotel, pack, and get over here and leave." So I'm going to leave Venice now, try to get the room that I was supposed to have in Milan, and just spend an extra day in Milan, which I happen to always love spending days in Milan. And I thought I would just, really get to see the town as I'd never seen it before by going to some really obscure museums. So I did that in 2002, thereby avoiding the train strike. In 2006, when Laura and I were in Florence, we actually had run into friends of ours there, and the four of us had walked to the train station to take the train from from Florence to Rome. And when we got to the train station, there was a train strike which we didn't know about. And we had our train was canceled, but they did say that one train would be running in about an hour from Florence to Rome, but we would probably not have a seat. So we said, "Okay, is it a high-speed train?" And they said yes, so it would be a 90-minute trip. We'd have to stand. So we were eager to get out of Florence by that time, so we decided to get on this train. And the reason we had to stand was that twice as many people were getting on this train as had been booked, but they were permitting standing room only, which is something they never permit. But on this one they were because of the train strike. So we stood on the train between Florence and Rome for 90 minutes. That was pretty horrible. We took turns sitting on the floor and on pieces of luggage. That was a really miserable experience. Laura and I had an experience and I don't remember when it was. I think it was 2009, but we had arrived in Rome, and my plan was to kind of wing it. I was going to be very cavalier for once in my life. So we decided to simply arrive in Rome and buy a ticket when we got to Rome rather than reserving it ahead. So we get to Rome, we go up to the window. I say, I'd like a ticket on the Eurostar to Florence that leaves in a half hour. And he said, sir, not only are we booked on that particular train, but we are booked on every train all day long. So I looked at Laura and I said, well, now what do we do? And you know, I'll discuss this in a few minutes. When you go up to the ticket window, the person at the ticket window is very, very helpful. And they speak perfect English. So he said, well, you could take a regular train, a slow train, which I'll talk about again as well. But it'll take 4 hours and it'll make about 35 stops in various places between Rome and Florence. We decided to do it. And it was, you pass some extraordinary places, which you can't get out really. So we just passed the places. But it was kind of miserable. We were cramped together in this cabin that was really, it was just not a very pleasant experience. So that was 2009. Then there was one in 2014, which is the trip we just took. Our plan, we were staying in Monterosso al Mare in Cinque Terre, and the plan was to take a train from Monterosso al Mare to the next little town, which was not in Cinque Terre, but along the Ligurian coast, Levanto. But we were told there would be a train strike and we wouldn't be able to take the train from Monterosso to Levanto. But the person at the hotel suggested we instead take a boat ride to Porto Venere, which was about 40 minutes away. It's a boat ride that we would take right along the coast where we'd see all the Cinque Terre towns, and we would wind up in Porto Venere, which was in itself an extraordinary place to visit. So we did that, and we had one of the great days that we've ever had in Italy. The boat ride was stupendous, and I'm going to focus on that, hopefully on the 100th show, which will be coming up in about a month and a half. We spent the day in this wonderful town. We had lunch in a stupendous outdoor restaurant that was just wonderful. We took some amazing photographs. So that was, an experience that we thought would be not such a great experience that turned out to be really something very, very special. So those are the 5 train strikes that I have experienced in my life. Now, one of the experiences I had on a train was in the year 2001 when I was relaxing on a train. Of course, this was one of my solo trips, I believe I was going from Florence to Milan, or Florence to Venice. I'm not sure where exactly I was going, but I was having a very relaxing ride when suddenly about 100 people descended upon the car that I was in. And it turns out that the air conditioning in their car had broken down, so everybody came into my car, and there were people standing all around us, some of whom looked like they were really suffering because they now had to stand instead of sit. And I gave my chair, my particular seat, to an elderly woman, and I then had to stand for the next hour. But, that wasn't such a great experience. But, if you don't take a tour and you decide to take train rides on your own, it can be a very wonderful experience. Of course, taking, it brings you closer to the locals. It brings you closer to the actual experience. Everyone in Italy takes trains. Very few people in Italy who live in Italy who don't have cars actually rent a car and go someplace. You always see people, very well-dressed people, visiting their relatives in various parts of the country. So you're really, really spending time with the locals and going through many of the experiences that they go through themselves. And it's really quite a thing. And I'm now going to explain how to take a train in Italy. And you'll see that this is, my knowledge of train travel has been garnered through really a lot of of train taking over the past 22 years. So this is what I'm going to focus on today. That particular scene that you're looking at is the Florence train station, Santa Maria Novella, where I have been not only when I'm taking trains, but sometimes, and I could say don't pass this around, except that it's now going on YouTube, and who knows how many hundreds of people may see it. But sometimes I go to train stations just to hang out. I love train travel so much that this past time that we were in Italy, I actually went to the train station because I had a couple of hours to kill, and I just thought I would go there and take some pictures. And actually, a lot of the pictures I took there that day formed the basis for this particular show. So here we go. There are different types of trains. There are 3 different types of trains. So before you decide what you would like to do in terms of taking a train, these are the choices. So right at the very top there, you could see a fast train. And you must have a reservation. And you can either take something called a Eurostar, which is the old type of train, not old, but it certainly has been around a while, or the new fast trains, which are called Frecciarossa. And that is the train we took this last trip, and it is really quite amazing. It's modern, it's beautiful, it's unbelievably fast, as I'll show you in just a few moments. But, you get a reserved seat, you find your seat, and you just, speed along, and it's quite amazing. It's pretty expensive, though. It's the most expensive means of travel, and a lot of people don't opt for it based on that fact alone. Then you have a train called an intercity, which also requires reservations. A lot less money than a Eurostar or a Frecciarossa. And, it only stops in the larger towns. In fact, my friend Luca, through the email that we were interchanging over the past several days, informed me that nowadays, if you want to take a train, an intercity train, from Florence to Venice, you have to stop off first in Bologna and make a switch of trains. Now, it's not like you're going a very long distance to get the train that you're switching to, because it's usually right next to it. So it's a very, very quick switch, but, it's a little bit of an inconvenience, especially if you're in a hurry. The slowest train that they have in Italy is called a regionale. And a regionale requires no reservation. In fact, there's no reservation even possible. And it makes a lot of stops. And that was the train that Laura and I took when we arrived in Rome without a ticket. We had to get on the slow train. And, you're basically running onto the train like frantic lunatics trying to find a seat so that you don't have to stand. They allow standing room. So you always see a lot of people standing all over, and that is just something you don't want to do on a 4-hour trip between Florence and Rome, or Rome and Florence. In all likelihood, people will be getting on and off. So as people get off, there might be a seat that becomes available, but that's not my favorite means of travel. Sometimes you have no choice. If you want to take a train from Florence to where my friend Luca lives, in Foligno Valdarno, you have to take a regionale train because there is no, it's only 20 minutes south of Florence. So you get on that. It makes that a few stops along the way between, I don't even know, like maybe Florence and Arezzo or Florence and Rome, but it makes a lot of stops along the way. So sometimes it's a necessity that you have to take a regionale. This, of course, is the high-speed train. This is not a Eurostar. I believe this is the Frecciarossa, and it is a sleek, modern, beautiful-looking train. I'll show you a little bit more about that later. This is the old-style train. This could be a regionale. It could be an intercity. It's an old train, and you know you're on an old train when you're on it because it just doesn't give the same feeling as one of the fast trains. Now, the station I'm going to focus on as I explain how to actually take a train in Italy is the station at in Firenze, which is Florence. S.M.N is the abbreviation for Santa Maria Novella. And this is what the train station looks like. And it's quite, it's a train station. So it's not like you're looking at one of the great churches or the great, the great parks and the Boboli Gardens, but it's very attractive. It's been there a very long time. I'm not sure when it was built. I think in the 1920s or 30s, but it's very functional. And right there, there are three entrances to this train station. You see the entrance right in front there, where there's a couple of tour buses, it looks like, and some taxis stop there. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. The station is named after the famous church that I actually spoke about during the last show that I did when I focused on Ghirlandaio having work in the Church of Santa Maria Novella. So the station is named after the Church of Santa Maria Novella. And to look at a map, I need to show you using my pointer, this is the train station right here. This is the Church of Santa Maria Novella. Okay, this is where we stay. This is our hotel, Croce di Malta. So you see, when we go to Croce di Malta and we decide to get to the train station, we walk along Via della Scala and then right across here to the station. But, there are three sides to it. There's the side that we were just looking at where the taxis pull up. There's this side where you could get in, on foot, or you could get in after you've gotten off one of the, trams, or you could get in on this side where all the buses are located. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. The train station is very centrally located. You could see this is the Church of Santa Maria Novella, but here is the rest of the center of Florence. Here's the Duomo, the San Lorenzo Market is up here, the Church of San Lorenzo is right over here, the Ponte Vecchio is right down here, the Pitti Palace with the Boboli Gardens is, you could take a very fast walk right across one of the bridges to get there. The Church of Santo Spirito right near the train station, so it's very, very quick to get there. The Uffizi is right over here as well. So that's, a really good thing to do, get into the central train station and then go anywhere you want. Okay, so you decide that you would like to take a train going someplace in Florence, and the first question is, where exactly do you buy a ticket? So here are the choices. You could go right to the train station, of course. You can go right to the train station, and that is the spot through those doors where you would buy your ticket. And this is how I would do it if I were buying a ticket there. I don't really do that anymore that much, and I'll show you how I do it. But if you wanted to determine which train you would like to take, you would go to a board that indicates all the departures, and that's what it looks like. And each of those blue lines, those heavy blue lines, indicates a different time of the day. So this is a close-up of it. So if you wanted to take a train, let's say, that left at 12 o'clock, and right next to it in red is the number of the train, right below that indicates that it is indeed a high-speed train, the Freccia Rossa. The next series of symbols shows you what services they provide, and you can see that the physically challenged are accommodated, and there are a few other things that are available there. It also indicates some of the places you could switch to. The next column tells you that the train goes to Milano Centrale. So if I were going to Milan, let's say, and we actually did this on this trip, we took the train from Florence to Milano, and you could see that it takes only an hour and 40 minutes, which is, to me, unbelievable. It used to take like 3-4 hours. A train that leaves at 12 o'clock will get to the Milano Centrale train station at 13:40. That's military time for 1:40. So in an hour and 40 minutes, you can make this really very long trip. It makes one stop. It stops in Bologna, and it makes a stop there at 12:35. So from Bologna to Milano only takes an hour and 5 minutes, which is really amazing. The number over here on the right side, this number right here, indicates the track number that the train may be at. Now, if you go by that track number, in almost all cases, you will be disappointed. If you're waiting at track number 9 for this train, it may not happen. And I'll show you how you can make sure that it actually does happen. But there are some other trains as well. There's a 1204, which is also a fast train to Salerno, and you can see that it stops in between at the Rome Tiburtina train station, and then it goes to the main Rome train station at Termini, and then it goes to Napoli Centrale, and it gets there in about 3 hours after it leaves Florence. And again, don't go by the track number. Incidentally, the track where you're going to get the train is called a binario. Okay, then you see a few others there as well. So I would determine that I wanted to take the 12 o'clock train to Milano. I would get the number of the train and the time that it left, and then I would go up to the ticket window. And these are the ticket windows, and there's usually a long line waiting for that. But as the years have gone on, the lines have gotten less and less because people are using other methods of doing it, which I'll show you in a moment. But you go right up to the window. The person behind that glass is very accommodating. As I said, he speaks English or she speaks English. They will work with you. They will give you all the options. They'll give you all the time schedules. They'll make suggestions to you. The only trouble with this system is that, as I said, sometimes there are long lines, and sometimes the line is long outside a particular window, and then suddenly you'll see a sign that says out to lunch right as you get to the window. So anything can happen. So I've given up on this particular procedure. And some people use the ticket machines. Now, you can see that there's quite a few people there, and there's also lines to get to use the ticket machines. The ticket machines are right outside that area where the ticket windows are located. And this is what it looks like without any people in front of it. So I had this experience. I decided one time to try to see if I could use this, and I went up to it, and I tried, and I stood, I was having a really hard time figuring out how to use it. Unfortunately, somebody came over to help me, so it wasn't that terrible, but, it's a good way, and you could get a ticket for anything, for a fast train, for an intercity, for a regionale, so this is a very nice way of getting a ticket. And they take credit cards, as you can see along the top, right along the top here. You see these are all the credit cards they take. So that's a very nice way of doing it. This is the way I get tickets nowadays. I go to my hotel, Croce di Malta. I send Luca an email. He will have a travel agency deliver it right to the desk of the hotel, and he will pay for it, and then I will pay him when I get to the hotel. Now, this is not only a service that a good friend like Luca would make for me, but hotels do this as well. So this is, if you're in New York and you want to go to Florence and you want to get your train ticket in advance, you send an email to your hotel and they will make the reservation for you, and then the ticket will be waiting for you when you get there. So that's a great way to do it. Or you yourself can go right into one of the travel agencies. This is very interesting because this is called the Boston Travel, but this is actually in Florence. So you just walk in there and you sit down at one of the desks. So now you're actually sitting down, and they have all the schedules, and they could show you all the different possibilities. It's more relaxing than going to the ticket window because usually there are no lines. There's a place to sit. There's somebody to talk to. Sometimes they have, a bathroom handy if you need to use the bathroom, and you pay the travel agency a very small fee, and they will do this. I used to do this a lot. There used to be an American Express office right at the corner of where the Hotel Croce di Malta was, and I used to go in there and make all my train reservations for my entire trip. So, like if we were going to Florence first, I would get the next train to, let's say, Venice, and also the train from Venice to Milan. Wherever I was going, I'd get all my tickets. And the fellow at the at the desk there was very, very helpful. And again, you could use your credit card. So that's also a very good way. This is the latest way of going. And this is just one of many, many services that you can go to online. This is called Italia Rail, and they charge you a fee, and you could actually put in a destination. You put in where you are and where you'd like to go, what time of day, how many adults, how many children. They'll tell you the price, and then they'll charge you a fee. And it's going to be a higher fee than you would have to pay if you were going to a travel agency. But, it's a nice way of going. And I actually use this service simply when I'm home and I want to find out what all the time possibilities are. And then I'll get the information and email Luca and say, Luca, this is what I want based on what I find out on one of these websites. So that's a very nice way as well. How to read a ticket. This is not easy, and I've created two possibilities for you. One is how to read a ticket on a high-speed train where there's an actual reservation, and how to read the train ticket for a regionale train, which is much easier. So this is the high-speed train ticket. And you can see in the upper right-hand corner, right over here, it says 2 adults. Of course, the problem is that it's in Italian. So you kind of have to know a little Italian. So this, of course, says that we're traveling 2 adults, so we get the same. We don't need 2 tickets. It's 1 ticket for the 2 of us. You could see right over here that the date is 6/6, which is June 6th. You could see that the train is leaving at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's originating in Florence at Santa Maria Novella. Now, there are a lot of different train stations in Florence, so be careful. You want to make sure that you get the correct train station. So you want Santa Maria Novella in most cases. You're arriving, arrivo. Incidentally, partenza means, departing from. Arrivo means that, where you're arriving, and that's in the Milano Centrale train station on the 6th of June at 1:40 in the afternoon. And right over there, it indicates, standard service. This is the number of the train right over here, 9514. This indicates that it's, they're giving you 2 seats. Posto, it doesn't, this is obviously a regular number. It doesn't say due, standard. Carrozza means car. So it's car number 9. Posti means where the seat is located. And here are the 2 seats. It was 16D and 15D, which means that we will be facing each other. And finestrino means you're at the window, because this is what I requested. I requested 2 window seats facing each other. So that's what we had right over here. If you'd like to sit in the corridor, a lot of people like to sit in the corridor where they could stretch out their legs to a greater extent, then you would use the corridoio. That's in the corridor. So those are the 2 possibilities, finestrino and corridoio. And so that takes care of that. And then this is the price you pay. Tarifa base means the tariff, and here it is. And you could see it cost €100 to go from Florence to Milano. And I'll tell you, I'll translate that into dollars and cents for you. It cost about $137 to make that train ride. So that's, you could see that that's pretty expensive. And these are all things I don't really pay much attention to. Okay, so that's how you read the train when you're taking a high-speed train. That's how you read the ticket. This is a regionale, which is much easier. All you do when you're getting a regionale train ticket is simply give them a place you're leaving and where you're going to. So in this situation, we're leaving from Partenza, Milano, and we're winding up in Pavia. And it's second class, and that's all you get. And you could see, now Milano to Pavia is not that far, but you could see that it's only going to cost about €3, which at the time was probably about $4. So, it's much cheaper. Of course, you're going a shorter distance, so that's one thing. You're not getting a reservation, so you're going to have to get on the train and perhaps fight your way to get a seat. You're going to be standing possibly. It's going to take a really long time, and but that's for one adult. Now, again, if I were taking a trip to Luca's house, this is the kind of train ticket that I would have to get. Okay, let's see if there's anything else there I need to point out to you. A train ticket is usually good for quite a while. I'm not sure exactly how long. Sometimes I'm told it's 90 days. Sometimes I'm told it's a year. You can get refunds on these tickets, incidentally. Even the high speed, if you get there and you say, well, listen, I just can't make this train, they will give you either a full or a partial refund and you could rebook the train. Okay, so that's how you read a ticket. And now how to get to the station. Okay, so you have your ticket. You know where you bought your ticket from, so you have that out of the way. And now you want to get to the train. And there are lots of ways, of course, of getting to the train station. You could take a bus, and this bus is arriving right on the right side of the train station. And the buses all arrive in this one point, and people not only get off the bus to get to the station, but also go from the station onto the bus. So this is, a very, very well-traveled spot right here, very crowded. It doesn't look crowded there, but it can get quite hectic with all of the bus travel and so on. And this is a closer look at a local bus that travels around Florence, going to different places. And just to show you where the bus station is, this is the train station here, and this is where you get the bus, right along the right side. So you're going to be getting a bus. If you're taking a bus to the train station, you want that bus to wind up right over here. And this is where you would get the taxi, and this is where you would get the tram. So let's go to the next one. This is a tram stop. Now, I've only taken a couple of trams in my life. It's quite interesting. It's sort of like a trolley car, taking a trolley car in New York, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. So what people do is, and there's a person right there, they look on the schedule and they see when the tram is leaving, where it goes, which numbered tram they want. If you get on the wrong tram, you could wind up anywhere in Florence. So this fellow or person, I'm not sure if it's a fellow or not, is looking to make sure that they have the right line and the right time to pick it up. And this is what it looks like as it's coming into the stop, which is right next to the train station. And it'll stop, the doors will open, people will get on. And you could also come in to a bus station from other parts of Tuscany. For example, if you were going to Siena and then you wanted to go from Siena, let's say, to Rome, you may have to first go from Siena to Florence. And this is one of the ways of doing that. You might take a train, but the faster way really to get from Siena to Florence, sometimes because the bus is really very close to the center of the town of Siena, is to take a bus that goes around Italy as opposed to a local bus that just goes around Florence. And this is where you would wind up. And I give you the map just to show you where that's located. So this is the train station. This is where the bus stop is located. So it's really perhaps 200 or 300 yards from the train station. So you get out here, and then you walk around the corner, and you're in the train station. So that's very convenient. Or you could get to the train station in a van. You could hire a van that stops at various hotels along the way and brings you right to the train station, where you then get on the train. You could take a taxi, and the taxi, of course, pulls up right in front of the train station, so that's a very nice way of doing it. This is actually not in Florence, but in Rome. This is all the taxis are lined up, ready to take people to and from the train station. And you definitely want to go there as opposed to taking a taxi of one that pulls up right in front of the Rome train station, because those sometimes, you get in and they're pirates and they try to take money from you by not putting on the meter, and that's not the best way to do it. You could drive to the station. I've never done this, and I don't intend to ever do it. There's a car. I thought that was a pretty cute scene because that is a smart car, very small, and actually in the distance over there is one of my favorite places in Florence, which is the local pharmacy with the green cross. And this is where you would park your car going down. It's very clearly indicated right next to the train station where you would actually park your car in order to then use the train. But I like to walk to the train station in Florence, and this is the block that I walk down when I'm coming from my hotel, Croce di Malta, to the train station. I will walk down that street and, right towards where you're looking right now, where that red light is indicated. I would then cross the street, and the train station, from the hotel to the train station, is only about a 10 to 12 minute walk, assuming you don't stop at stores along the way. And I would cross the street right over there. Be very careful crossing that street because you could see that it's, there's a tram line that runs right there, but you cross the street right there, and you can see people doing that, and you wind up at the train station. I very rarely go in the main entrance. I usually go in on the side, and this is where that's what I'll be focusing on now. There's a tram pulling into the station there. Not a station, but just a stop. And these are people who are walking to and from the train station. And this is what I would be doing if I were going from Florence to the train station. I would be crossing this very street, and I could either walk up the steps, which I used to do, which is quite you're carrying heavy luggage, you got to walk up the station steps, which I never liked doing until I suddenly discovered, this is after years of being in Florence, I don't know everything obviously, I was walking across the street at this point and realized that dead ahead was an opening where I could go actually not up the steps, but down. And that's what I'm pointing to right here. Right behind this truck, you go right down there and it takes you right into the train station. It doesn't take you to the main level, it takes you down here. And this is where you would wind up. And then you could either go up the escalator that you see over there in the distance, or you could go up the elevator that's right over here on the side. But there's the escalator, and it's, of course, very efficient. Usually works. Won't always say it works, but it usually works. And there's the elevator, which again sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work. And there are signs that are very, very clearly labeled. There's the sign for the exit. There's the sign for the Piazza della Stazione. That's the front that's the piazza that we were looking at right in front of the train station. And there are various other things you might be interested in, such as getting tickets and parking. And they have it in Italian. They also have it written in English. Tickets, parking, shopping. They don't even bother with the Italian word for shopping. They just simply put shopping, and a few other services there as well. And all the signs are very clearly marked. That's showing you where the shopping is located or the parking is located. And then, of course, you would like to find your train. And you could walk in this main entrance, and you see the board up there on the top. And this is a close-up of that board. And this is what you would probably want to do when you enter the train station. You want to find your destination. So, for example, if I had a ticket for, and this is obviously not the Florence train station because right at the top is Firenze, which is Florence. So if you were taking a train to Florence from probably Rome, there it is right on top. It's an REG, which means it's a regionale train. It's not a high-speed train. It leaves at 8:40. It's supposed to leave at 8:43 from track number 2, and that's what that next number is. The title on the top is Binario, and that's telling you that it leaves from track 2. But it's delayed by 5 minutes because in yellow right next to it is the time indicated 8:48. So the time of 8:43 has been already changed to 8:48, and there's all the other stops. There's Venezia and Lecce and Fiumicino is the Rome airport is located at Fiumicino. So this is definitely the Rome train station, because there would not be a train that goes from, let's say, Venice to the Rome train station, or Napoli. It would be from Rome. So that's what tells us we're in the Rome train station. And all the other trains. And that would tell you your track number, and then you know that at 8:48, but you have to keep looking over the next, hour or so. If you got there an hour earlier, I like to get to, stations very early, so I would get there and then have to kill some time, but I would know that I would go to track number 2 at 8:48, or actually before then. And there are boards all over the train station. This is the station in Florence, and there's another board that indicates all the different trains that are leaving and where they're going. It's hard to see because it's kind of blurry, but that's one of them anyway. But meanwhile, the question is, and this is a good question for somebody like me, what do you do while you're waiting for your train? And this is the first thing you can do, and I hope we have enough time. This is a video where my friend Roger Crum, who's a professor at Dayton College, gave me something you could do while you're waiting in the train station. It's only 2 minutes and 38 seconds, so we can show this when you're ready. All right, so we are in the Santa Maria Novella train station in Florence. The noise just stopped. And I am with a professor at the University of Dayton. This is Roger Crum, who told us that he knows the story about the spot we're standing on now. And I don't know what he's going to say, so I'll leave the floor to the platform to you.
Yeah, it is literally a platform. As one walks down this last or first, depending on your direction, platform in the train station in Florence, you come upon this notably special structure that clearly stands separate from the rest of the train station. This structure happens to be here because it was constructed specifically for the arrival of a certain dignitary. And that is that on the morning of May 9th, 1938, a train southward bound from Germany pulled up at this track, and out of the door stepped Adolf Hitler to the welcoming extended arm of Benito Mussolini. And so right here is where Hitler and Mussolini met with the objective, which is Hitler's, of coming to Italy to establish the military alliance with Mussolini and fascist Italy. Right here on this spot stood these two gentlemen who were both famously and infamously responsible for a good bit that was central, horrific, even evil, indeed evil, attendant upon the Second World War. Incredibly significant spot.
Might want to mention how the building was built.
I think I did.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so an amazing story. Right here is where Adolf Hitler and Mussolini began the relationship that would turn the world into a
Nightmare.
destruction.
Thank you, Roger.
Very well for that amazing story. In all the times I've been to Florence, which is 17, I've never heard that story. So thank you very much. Okay, so that was the story of that spot. Am I back on? Okay, so that was the story of that spot, which you could go to. This is another spot that Roger actually turned us on to as well. During the last trip we made to it, we happened to run into Roger in a restaurant that we both like very much. And this is a Holocaust memorial. And those are stones that represent, the destruction that took place during World War II. And there is a plaque that is written in Italian, unfortunately, but this is to commemorate, the Holocaust, and it's very moving, and it's something that, it's something very, very important that you could do when you're in the Florence train station. Now, if you're interested in having some fun, you could see that there's a gelateria there. One last gelato. Oh, okay. Perhaps when you want to kill some time, you could walk down this promenade in the bottom level, and you could go into various stores. You could see various stores along the side. There's a place where women are having their nails done. There are clothing stores down there where you could, pick up something on your way to another place. It's a very long promenade. It's very clean. It's very pleasant to walk down there. They have facilities for the physically challenged. There's a ramp, so you could go down there. There's somebody pushing somebody on a wheelchair. There are all kinds of stores that you could go into while you're waiting for your train. Or you could just kind of sit, like this group is just sitting in the main area, and they look pretty bored. But, you could do that. Some people just like to sit and wait for their train without too much stimulus. And they're just staring at the board, which tells you, when the train's leaving. So they want to make sure they get the right train at the right time and the right binario. And this is what, everybody aims for. And this is right where the train is about to leave, right over here. And in this little promenade area, you could go to a tobacco store, which has newspapers. You could go over here to this store to buy some luggage. You could go to McDonald's. Why anybody would want McDonald's in Italy is beyond me, but, people do, and you respect them for that. But there's an all-night pharmacy, which I've gone to many, many times, Santa Maria Novella Farmacia. There's a snack bar where you could pick up something to eat. You're not allowed to smoke, so that tells you that no smoking is allowed. Non fumare. You could mail a letter in the mailbox. You could go to the bank and exchange some money, perhaps. And you could, go back into the ticket. That's where the ticket area is, Salon Bigliette. You could check the time, and then if you feel like you should start moving towards the track, this is where you grab a last snack, maybe make a final phone call, and then head towards the train. And this is where the trains are. And you would again check the board to make sure that you have the correct track number. And once you got the correct track number, you would then walk to the track. That could be it right there. And you would want to validate your ticket either in that machine, which is a new machine, or that machine, which is an old machine. And you need to validate it. Otherwise, you could get a summons by being on the train. Boarding the train. I have probably 1 minute, so I have to move fast. This tells you the train is leaving at 1:04 to Napoli. And there's the clock right there. And this sign is telling you where the different cars are. If you're going to car number 1, you want to make sure you're in the right place. And this sign will tell you where on the platform car number 1 is going to stop. And this is very, very important. And there it is, car number 1. You can see that written over there. And if you're in seats 1 to 16, you would go in that door. And that would lead you to, directly to the seats 1 to 16, which is great. This is coach number 2 with seats 1 through 10. And you would go up those steps onto the train. You could get a last-minute ticket. They have a last-minute ticket booth for people who, decide to wait till the very last second. Eventually, you get on the train, and there is Laura and me and David and Randy as we're taking a train somewhere. I don't know where exactly. But you could see the relaxed look on my face because I know I don't have to drive. Next on Alan's Italy, a very, very special occasion. In 2 weeks, on August 18th, we will have a special guest, and that will be Professor Eve Dombra, who had the most popular show on YouTube, the most popular Alan's Italy show, the show she did on the Roman Forum. And she will be back on August 8th to do a lecture on Pompeii. So please tune in for what is going to be a really brilliant performance, I know, on her part. And that brings us to the end of tonight's show. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you find that useful to be able to know exactly how you would take a train in Florence and all the things you would have to do. So please join us next week. Thank you for watching this time, and buona notte e buona fortuna. Whoops.